All right, so if you have your Bibles, open them up to Mark chapter 8. We're going to be getting into our last installment of our series, The Miracle Man. We've been spending the last few months talking about miracles, but today we're going to be looking at the greatest miracle of them all, and that's the miracle of becoming a disciple. Becoming a disciple. He heals us, He delivers us, but then He transforms us. Okay, we've been hearing a lot about what Jesus has done for the crowds. But the greatest thing He can ever do for us is get in the side of us and rewire our inclinations and make us His own. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, being a disciple. You know what disciple means? Kind of a fancy Christian word. It means being a follower. It means being a wholehearted follower of Christ. I'm not talking about being a believer. A lot of people can be a believer, but who is a wholehearted follower? And I will show you a disciple of Christ. And we can't do this on our own. I mean, this is not our natural inclination. We need somebody and something to happen on the inside of us and make us to be a disciple. In our broken and sinful condition, we would just rather do our own thing. Quite honestly, right? We love autonomy. We love self-direction, self-determination, setting your own terms, being the master of our fate. That's the spirit of our age. And if we inhale the spirit of our age through culture, music, movies, popular opinion, it becomes pretty near impossible to become a disciple of Christ. The forces of darkness do not want you to be Jesus' disciples. They would just say, hey, why go to all the effort? Why go to all the hassle? You can experience miracles just being a part of the crowd. Have you noticed that as we went through this series, Jesus never turned to the disciples and did miracles for them? He always doled it out. Just doled it out. I mean, just gave it out just to the crowds, free of charge. Why not just remain a part of the crowd and receive His miracles and not have to go through the inconvenience of following Jesus? Who would choose that kind of life? And yet, that's the call for everybody who's a part of the crowd, is to come and follow me. Be a wholehearted follower of Christ. But you can have all the benefits of the miracles by just being a part of the crowd. And it doesn't inconvenience your life at all. Jesus had His crowds, and then He had His friends. Which would you rather be? A part of the crowd? Or would you like to come out of the crowd and to follow Jesus? Well, I can tell you what Jesus would have you do today, and that's exactly what our passage will cover as we start to read this here. So today's passage is a call to come out of the crowd and to follow Jesus, to be a wholehearted follower of Jesus. Not just a believer, but a follower. So Mark chapter 8 is where we're at today. Verse 27, we're going to read through the end of the passage. Our passage today marks the turning point for the book. We've been talking about miracles. This is going to be our last installment. We'll pick it up next fall. Okay? But this marks the turning point of the entire gospel, what we read today. Mark chapter 8, verses 27 through 38. And Jesus went on with His disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way He asked His disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they told Him, "John the Baptist, and others say Elijah, and others say one of the prophets." And He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Christ." And he strictly charged them to tell no one about Him. And he began to teach them that the Son of Man, speaking of himself, must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes and be killed. And after 3 days, rise again. And he said this plainly. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and seeing his disciples, he, Jesus, rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man." And calling the crowd to him with his disciples, he said, and let these words reverberate in your soul, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? For what can a man give in return for his soul? For whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him will the Son of Man also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with his holy angels." This is a call to discipleship. Just because you're a believer does not make you a follower of Jesus. I've been a believer for as long as my memory serves me. I don't remember not being a believer. I have always believed and even loved Jesus. But growing up, I didn't always follow him. I loved Jesus, but I also loved other things and sometimes more. I loved my acceptance. I loved popularity. I loved doing my own thing. Being who I thought I wanted to be. I loved pursuing what I wanted to pursue. So I was, quite honestly, lukewarm in my faith. Very duplicitous, not very consistent. I had my sin under control, or so I thought. I could turn it up and I can turn it down, depending upon where I was at. With my friends, I could turn it up. But I had it under control to where I can turn it down when I got around people where I thought I needed to be more like Christian-like. So I had perfect control of my sin until I wanted to turn the sin all the way off. And I sprung a leak. I mean, the pipe burst, man. Sin started spewing all over the place. The time in my life, about 20 years old, when I really started to cinch it in and start living for the Lord, I tried to turn my sin off, and I could see that I was completely out of control, doing things I never wanted or never envisioned myself doing. I started doing it. I'm like, who am I becoming? So I knew at that point I needed help, and everything began to change when I was about 21 years old. I knelt down, and long story short, I gave my heart to Jesus, no questions asked. And from that point on, he rewired me. He did a miracle. Today we're going to be talking about the miracle of becoming a disciple. He did something on the inside of me, and he reoriented my inclinations, and I became a follower of Jesus. And it looked a lot different than just being a believer. And this is where it all starts. Acknowledging who Jesus is. Yeah, he's that guy. He is that guy, and nobody and nothing compares to him. Look at verse 27. It says here, and Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked his disciples, who do people say that I am? He was curious. They told him John the Baptist, others say Elijah, others one of the prophets. And he says, yeah, okay, but who do you say that I am? And that's a question for everybody here. Who do you say that I am? That's what Jesus asks each of you here. Who do you say? I'm not talking about popular opinion. I'm not talking about hearsay. I'm talking about where are you at with me? This is where it all begins. What do you say about me? Because the state of your soul is not dependent on what anybody else thinks, but purely on what you think. Where are you at with me? Jesus says. Peter answered, he steps up, he nails it on the head. He says, you are the Christ. You are the anointed one. You are the chosen one. You are the Messiah. You are the one we've been waiting for. And when he said that, man, everything changed. You are the one we've been waiting for. If he's the one you've been waiting for, if all your aspirations, all your hopes and aspirations are found in Jesus, you're well on your way to becoming a disciple. That's where it begins. Where are you at with Jesus? And is your hope and is your aspiration found in him? And if that alignment happens, you can become his follower. If he's the one. Not a husband, not a wife, not a son, not a daughter, not a hero, not a mentor, not a philosopher, not a friend, not a mentor, not a provider, not a presidential candidate. If he is the one, then you are well on your way to becoming a follower. Not just a believer, but a disciple. If he is the one. Because your deepest hopes when they make connection to your deepest source, special things begin to happen. Jesus is the deepest source. And if your deepest aspirations are found in him, then you have reached a place where you have been aligned and something can transform in your heart, but not until that happens. If you're chasing all kinds of things and your hopes and aspirations are scattered to the wind, you will never become a disciple of Jesus. But if they're found if your deepest hope is found in the deepest source, and that's Jesus, then your life can change. Do you want that? I want that. I desperately need that every day of my life. But this is only the beginning. You may have acknowledged who he is. But what happens when he does something that you don't expect? Then what? This is the test of discipleship. Look at verse 30. And he strictly charged them to tell no one about him. He's saying, let's just keep that between us right now. One day you will take this to the four corners of the world, but for now, let's keep this between us. And he began to teach them that the Son of Man, speaking of himself, must suffer. Not will suffer, must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed. And after 3 days, he will rise again. And he said this plainly. And check this out, Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. Wow. This will never happen to you, Jesus. You are the Messiah. Get your head on straight. I mean, you have come to liberate us with power. You've come to usher in the kingdom by force. This is what Messiahs do. This was their conception of what a Messiah should be. Jesus chose to be something completely different than what they expected. He says, Peter, I am the one you've been waiting for. But my ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. I'm here to have you follow me, not for me to follow you. And if you want to be my disciple, be willing to have your thinking changed. Be willing to have your thinking contradicted. And be willing to receive rebuke. To receive a rebuke. Are you willing to be rebuked? Are you willing to be contradicted? Look at verse 33. But turning and seeing his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, Get behind me, Satan. Did he call me Satan? Yeah. For you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man. He called me Satan. That would be a really bad day. He goes from being like this guy who's, you're the Christ, to get behind me, Satan. He says, Peter, you're inhaling the spirit of this age. Oh, Jesus, you don't need to do that. You don't need to go to all that. You don't need to die. And Jesus is like, you did not hear me in verse 31. The Son of Man must suffer. Must suffer. Must suffer. He must be rejected. He must be killed. I must do this. And why is that? Because the wages of sin is death. Do you realize that when we've been born, we have been born into a death penalty? Our representatives, Adam and Eve, in the garden, God came to them and says, you can eat of all these trees. Just don't eat of that one right over there, because in the day that you eat of that tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall surely die. And once they disobeyed and ate of that tree, death entered into the human race. And you have been born under the penalty of death. And so he said, I must come and I must die for the sin of humanity, because if I didn't, they would die in their sin and be lost forever. So, I'm going to come and die in their place. And Jesus, without any sin, without any fault on his record, came and took your place, paid your penalty with a perfect sacrifice, so that you would have the gift of everlasting life. I must die. I must come and do this for you, because if I didn't, you would be lost forever. This was love at its highest degree. He would come and lay down his life so that you would be restored to the Father. That's the good news. That's the news that transforms everything. He is the one we have been waiting for. With love in his heart, healing in his wings, his name is Jesus, and he will save us from our sins. I needed to be saved when I was young man. I couldn't turn off the sin in my life. My sin was out of control. I didn't have control over it any longer, and he needed to come and save me from me. He needed to save me from my sins, and that's what Jesus comes to do. He saves us from our sin, satisfies the penalty, pays the price. And when you really get that in your soul, that is the game changer. That is what transforms everything. And when it's all said and done, Jesus says, I will rise to validate that the payment was good. It's like Jesus was on the cross. He wrote a check. Sometimes you write a check, you go out and you just hope it's going to clear the bank. Right? And sometimes it doesn't clear the bank. You don't really write checks any longer. But back in the day, I used to write a check, and sometimes I would have bounced the check because there was insufficient funds. So when Jesus got on that cross, was nailed to the cross, he was writing a big check. And had he never risen from the dead, it would have been like that check bounced. There was insufficient funds. He didn't have all that it took to atone for the sin of humanity. But the fact that he rose on the third day says that there was sufficient funds in the bank. God validated the work and said, sufficient. Your sins have been paid for. And Jesus is saying, I must do these things. This is why I have come. And so he says, I will rise again on the third day. So he's done all these things. And then he calls us, he transforms us, and calls us to be wholehearted followers. Isn't that the natural response? If this is true, and if this is what you believe, isn't this the natural response? Is to be a wholehearted follower of Christ? If somebody were to come and clear all my debts and pay off the mortgage to my house, I would be like, what can I do for you? Oh my God. So much more. God in heaven clears our eternal debt, and you can come into his kingdom and experience everlasting life. How much more? Isn't this the natural response? To be a wholehearted, if it's not the natural response, either it's not true or you don't believe it. But if it's true, and if you believe it, it'll change you. It'll change you right down to the core of who you are. And he calls us in response, he calls us to be his friends forever. And that's what we read here in the final section, verses 34 through 38. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to ask, man, that this will just reverberate in your soul. These words are the call of discipleship. Please open up your hearts. Listen to these words. And calling the crowd. If that's you today and you're still in the crowd, you're a believer. You're a believer, but you're not necessarily a follower, okay? He's calling you today. And calling the crowd to him, the crowd, with his disciples, he said to them, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up the cross, and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world? Big salaries, luxury homes, nice clothes, fancy cars, vacation cruises, real estate property, stocks and bonds, fame, notoriety, social standing, universal admiration, etching your name into the books of history. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? For what can a man give in return for his soul? Your soul is priceless. You can't put a price tag on it. For whoever is ashamed of me, Jesus says, and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him will the Son of Man also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. These are some of the most incisive, penetrating, riveting words you will find in all of Scripture. And I pray you hear them and receive them today. How is this possible? Self-denial? Taking up your cross? Losing your life? Taking a stand in the face of embarrassment and even death? The transforming love and power of Jesus Christ is how it's possible. All we need to do is open our hearts and believe. And the love and power of God, will come and do the rest. It will do the work. All we need to do is open our hearts up, and he will transform, rewire, reorient you, and you will be a die-hard follower, a wholehearted follower of Christ. And that's the call we hear today. And that's the miracle that we need to receive today, is that work of transformation. It's all for the asking. He's called it. He's made it possible. Is open up your hearts and say, yes, Jesus. Who will go with us? Here I am. Send me. I will be that man. I will be that woman. That love and power, once it gets in you, will rewire everything else. He can make you into verses 34 through 38 if you will let him. You realize nothing else sits on the other side of this life. Only Jesus. Only Jesus. This life is momentary. That life is eternal. And whatever I need to go through in this life, I will endure if I can have that life. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. I'm not a great singer, but the truth of that song is so profound. One day we will look back at this life and it will be nothing but a drop in the bucket. And I will do whatever I need to do to be his follower, because he's paid the price for my everlasting life. God, make this our reality. So we have a choice today. We have a choice to say, hey, if the call is out there, he's giving us a choice, I want to say yes. Yes. Not necessarily, yes, I will go do that, because I can't do all that. But yes, come on in. Reorient. Rewire me so that I am that guy, that I'm that gal, whatever I need to be. Do the work in me. And so that's the invitation today. And we have a choice to say yes to that work of transformation. Romans 10 says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, just like Peter did. You are Lord. You are Christ. You are the Master. If we confess with our mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in our heart that God raised him from the dead, we will be saved. But we're not just saved to play it safe. We're saved to take up our cross and to follow Jesus. So I have the music team come back up. Following Jesus in this world will involve bearing a cross. Crosses could be, you name it, ridicule, scorn, embarrassment, inconvenience. It could be failure, defeat, betrayal, sickness, old age, even death. Death, old age, death of young age. Just because we have a cross does not mean that we have failed. It means that we have succeeded in being a follower of Christ. So the call is take it up. Whatever the cross might be, take it up. Faith makes all things possible. Love makes all things easy. And that cross, that heavy cross that you're carrying, if there is love of Jesus burning in your heart, that cross will be the lightest thing you will ever imagine carrying, if your perspective is right. God is amazing. He does a work on the inside of us, and He calls us to follow Jesus by taking up our cross. We're going to be taking communion today. If you don't have the cup, I'd ask you, first of all, you need to be a believer in Jesus. You need to be a believer. You need to be a believer in the work of Jesus in your life. If I can get a cup up here too, that would be great. I'm going to read out of Isaiah 53 as we prepare to receive the bread and the juice. Isaiah 53 is a prophecy that Jesus must have known very well himself as he was growing up. He knew that this was going to be him one day. I can get a cup too, please. Thank you. All right. You can open this for me. Isaiah 53 says he was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and as one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid upon him the iniquity of us all. Are you grateful for the cross? Are you grateful for what Jesus has done? The bread is a symbol, a reminder of the nature of his body that was broken for you. The wages of sin is death. He did this for you. His body was broken. It was pierced. It was crushed. It was mangled. The Bible says that he was so disfigured, even beyond any human comprehension. You couldn't just say, who was that on the cross? It was like, what is that? What is that? That's what Isaiah continues to say. He was broken because he loves you so deeply. The bread is a symbol and is a reminder of that love. The juice is like, it's a symbol and a reminder of the blood. The blood was spilled on your behalf. Without this shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. Blood is a proof that something died. Jesus' blood was a proof that your sin has been atoned for, covered, paid for. And with that, we are healed. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, relationally, financially, whatever it might be. He comes and he restores all things. And like we talked about last week, you will all experience eventual healing. 100% and eternal wholeness and healing because of this blood. So let's take it together. The bread, the juice, is a symbol of his body and blood. Let's receive it now with thanks. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. In light of this, if this is true, being his disciple is the most natural thing anybody could ever do. Take up your cross and follow Jesus. So we're going to stand here with one last song.